Good morning, everyone. This is the start of our Brevard Buddy Walk volunteer training, and we are just waiting for our participants to join us. So you can pause this or fast forward through this portion of the recording. We have 7 minutes before our official start time. Five minutes until we begin. Three minutes until our start time. If you are just joining us, the correct place for the Brevard Buddy Walk volunteer training today. We're glad you could join us, and we will officially begin in 3 minutes. If you are just joining us for today's Brevard Buddy Walk volunteer training, we will officially start our training session in 2 minutes. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, hello and good morning, everyone. I am Amy Van Bergen. I am the volunteer coordinator for this year's Brevard Buddy Walk, also known as the Greatest Walk. This year, it's part of our theme. You'll learn more about that in just a few minutes. I am so delighted to welcome you this brief virtual volunteer training. We will be recording this, so if you have others that will be volunteering with you who have missed it, we'll be able to send out the link to you. And we are about ready to get started. So again, welcome to our Brevard volunteer training, everyone. You should be able to our screen share now. Everyone who is joining us today, except for me as the host, is muted. So if you have any questions throughout this presentation or at the end, you can tap them in the question or chat box and we can respond to those. So let's get ready to start. And again, as I just mentioned, we will be recording this. So if you have others that many of you are volunteering as parts of groups, we will record and you'll be able to share this with them if they missed today's training or next week's training. We'll have another one next Tuesday evening. So let's start it. And again, thank you for joining us today. So this year's, I wanted to start off with letting you know our walk coordinators would be, because even if you'll be checking in with me as the volunteer coordinator, there are lots of other people who are handling all different aspects of this big event this year. And that would be Craig Lewis, pictured at the top here, sporting the tie. He is our executive director of the Down Syndrome Association of Brevard. And Sarah Lalo, pictured below with her husband Vince, is our walk chair this year. And they will be on site from start to finish. So if you have any questions the day of the event and you do not see me and can't find me at the volunteer check-in area, which is where I plan on staying most of the day, if you see either of these folks, and we will also have other folks in staff t-shirts. So if you have questions or concerns on site, you'll be able to find them. So just again, so that you are able to identify, some of you volunteering probably are friends with some of these people and they convinced you to volunteer. And again, whether you're a friend, whether this is your 20th year volunteering with the Down Syndrome Association of Brevard or your very first year, we're so grateful to have you. Pictured here is our board president, Victoria Timberlake, who has functioned as our Buddy Walk chair for years. So many of you may be familiar with her. Also pictured here is Emily DeWoody, one of our photographers. She is a professional photographer and often does our team photos, so she may be familiar to you. And then pictured in the lower right-hand screen is Jimmy Rudolph, who has handled our sponsorships this year and will probably be in the registration and sponsorship check-in area most of the day. But you can also see the list of our board members and other committee members. So if any of these folks need anything or you happen to know them, they could answer questions as well for you. So this year's theme is, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the greatest walk, based on the movie The Greatest Showman. We're so excited to be back in person this year after a virtual only event last year. And we just wanted to give you some information about it. This will be our 19th year. It is the only fundraiser for us this year. So every bit of money that is raised leading up to this event and the day of the walk goes directly to support all of the programs and services of the Down Syndrome Association of Brevard. And you'll note here I mentioned that we were formerly called FEDS, Families Exploring Down Syndrome. Occasionally we'll have a volunteer ask us, there used to be another Down syndrome group called FEDS. Well, we're one and the same. We legally changed our name 2 years ago, mainly because our donors would get confused and think that we had some affiliation with the federal government when we referred to ourselves as Fed. So we are the Down Syndrome Association of Brevard, and we support individuals with Down syndrome and their families from the very beginning, from prenatal diagnosis all the way through the lifespan. So here's today's agenda. I want to review for you just very briefly how the walk works and what your volunteer roles may be, what some of the areas of activities and service will be, what you should wear or not wear, when to report for volunteer service. We'll talk a little bit about any extra COVID-19 calls and then address any of your questions. So let's get moving. This is not our final site map, which I did on an iPad with my finger, so hence that's why the crooked X mark. This is a map of the Avenue Viera. So if you want to orient yourself to wherever you usually pull into this area, you'll see the AMC theaters here is in your lower left-hand corner. Our walk event space is going to be the entire parking lot area barricaded off on the side of the AMC theater, where you see the large X between AMC and Michael's and World Market. We'll also be sending one out to all of our volunteers probably the week of the walk, showing you where to park. But we actually, volunteer parking, I can tell you, is actually going to be behind the AMC theater here in this area. We will have signs, so whatever time you arrive that morning, best to park behind there so that we're leaving the areas closest to our venue site for families that may have difficulty and accessibility issues reaching it. And then you can see a where our walk will actually lead off. We'll be leading off in this corner of the event space. We're actually going to be going around the outside of the Avenue Viera and then cutting in here, going through the courtyard space where we'll have some waters, Powerades and snacks and photo opportunities, and back to our venue site. You can see on the schedule on the right-hand side, approximate times for when folks are going to be arriving. Our volunteers are scheduled to either arrive at 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. And good news for our 5 a.m. volunteers, I'm probably going to be pushing your arrival time back to 6 a.m. But we are finalizing those setup details now. Basically, the idea between our 5 a.m. versus our 7 a.m. volunteers is that everybody's going to be helping, if you're in that earlier group, with all the setup of the tents, the tables, the chairs, the signage, the photo opportunities, so that that is all set up and ready to go by the time our exhibitors arrive at 7:15, and certainly by the time our families start to check in at 8 a.m. And then our welcoming opening ceremonies will start at about 9. And we actually hope to start the walk itself, which is about slightly less than 1 mile, at about 9:20. And all of our volunteers, unless they are in a critical area that has money handling, such as registration or our merchandise area, we are going to be asking all of our volunteers to line up and act as cheerleaders, both at the walk start and the walk finish. We've got pom-poms, we've got noisemakers. Feel free to bring your own as well, to sort of cheer folks and families and teams on. You will also be assigned to registration areas, fun zones, entertainment, helping assist with lines, and then our volunteers who arrive at 7 a.m., those are the folks who we are asking to stay until close to 1 p.m. Hopefully we'll be done before that. But you also, after the walk event is over and your area of service is over, you will be helping us with any of the cleanup, picking up the garbage, the water bottles, breaking down tables and tents and stacking those so that we have another crew coming in to pick those up. So as I've already mentioned, Main walk areas of help are going to be set up. Check-in areas, we're going to have on-site registration. We're going to have an area right next to registration for those teams that have already registered. We're going to have VIP area for our exhibitors and sponsors. We're going to have a merchandise or shop area near there. We're also going to have volunteers who are handling parking as families arrive to help, in addition to our signs, point to the best parking areas. We also have some of our teams that have earned VIP parking, so parking volunteers will be checking that. We'll have a games and fun zone area with a petting zoo, with obstacle courses, face painters, characters. And then, as I mentioned before, every volunteer, unless you're in a critical area where you cannot leave, if you're actively checking in teams, if you are handling money in our merchandise area that shouldn't be left alone, in our first aid lost parents area. Other than that, 90% of you will be going and cheering as our walk starts and as our walk ends at the start and finish. And there'll be a large inflatable arch where that is. So it'll be very clear to you where you're going to be lining up along the route. I believe we've already secured our additional volunteer photographers, but if you know somebody who'd be interested in that, please feel free to reach out directly to me. And if you have a unique skill or are interested in being a leader of any of one of those areas, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my name's Amy. You can see my email on the screen and my cell phone number. You've probably been receiving emails from me already. So again, don't hesitate to reach out. And also don't hesitate to type in your questions in the chat box or question box here. So we do not need to do background checks for this event because none of you are going to be one-on-one alone with a child or a vulnerable person with Down syndrome of any age. But I do just want to reiterate that obviously we are about empowering and supporting individuals with Down syndrome and their families. So we are committed to this being a safe place for them, both physically and, emotionally, psychologically. So one of the things I wanted to share with you, if you've never been around people with disabilities or Down syndrome specifically, is to please use people first language. Your daughter is beautiful. In that case, if you're saying that to a family, there's no need to even say that she has Down syndrome. But if you do, or find yourself in those circumstances, it would be your daughter, the person first, with Down syndrome, not your Downs daughter or not a Downs. So again, that's people first language. It's a person with Down syndrome. And if you have any kinds of questions about any additional policies or procedures that we use for any of our events, please don't hesitate to reach out to Craig Lewis, our executive director, and his contact is there. And I know you have that via email as well. Online safety, you should have received a photo release form via email. If not, don't worry about it. Or if you don't have the capability of printing it out, don't worry about it. We will have plenty of those on site at the volunteer check-in where you'll be checking in with me that morning. If you're one of those 5 a.m. arrivals and we don't have that fully set up yet, no later than 7:15 that morning, so I can confirm who is on site and make sure we have those release forms. Those are for both photos and pictures, because we're going to be having volunteer photographers taking pictures of how we have the venue set up. So we might capture you setting up a tent. We're going to be having volunteer photographers taking candid photos throughout the day. We ask in turn that you do not actually post photos during the event. We also request that you do not friend request on social media or tag anyone. of our families are concerned with their privacy or public posting of their children or loved ones with Down syndrome. So unless you specifically know someone already and have their permission, again, we request that you don't post during the event. Only those who are part of the committee and part of our communications team are supposed to be doing. We will have, for those families who are not comfortable being on site this year, we do have a virtual buddy walk option for them that will be going live at 10 a.m. So we don't want to be competing with that. And we just ask that you use good judgment, again, in terms of those kinds of release form I mentioned. And again, I will add, I've only ever had one person tell me they were uncomfortable filling this out. And that's because they were a model or an actor who actually had a representative agency and manager. And if you are a model or star or celebrity of some sort, and you're very careful with your imaging, you can simply write that on there. And that way we can make sure that in any of our photos we post, we do not include you. We're happy to do that. But again, we just want to make sure if we do post anything like that or use something in marketing materials for next year's walk from this year's walk, that we've got this covered. So again, please either fill this out in advance or the day of the walk is fine. Many of you have asked us what additional, if any, COVID-19 procedures we have. Again, common sense prevails. If you have any symptoms, please text, email, or don't, let us know that you're planning on staying home. We don't want to expose vulnerable individuals with Down syndrome who are at higher risk for more severe disease from the coronavirus. Have any signs or symptoms, please, we ask that you don't attend. We are not requiring masks. We do suggest them for our volunteers, but they are not required. Use common sense physical distance at the venue. This is all outdoors. There will be no indoor spaces, which should help. And volunteers in particular that are doing some of our fun zone activities, part of your job will be helping to manage those lines. We don't have any enclosed bounce houses this year. All of our outdoor activities are more like obstacle courses and open air on the top. But again, kids tend to pile up and get very excited. And so part of your role will be to manage those lines in a safe and responsible way. If you have any questions or concerns, again, don't hesitate to reach out to me, Amy Van Bergen, or to our executive director, Craig Lewis. So what to wear? This is an important thing. This is not the t-shirt we will be providing you, but we will be providing every volunteer with a volunteer t-shirt. It, I believe, is going to be green and says "Down to Volunteer," so that any of our families need help, have questions, they're going to come to you and know clearly that you're a volunteer. You can just get that the morning that you arrive and check in with me at the volunteer check-in area. Probably the easiest thing to do is pull that on over whatever shirt or tank top you are wearing. I apologize, we're not going to be able to guarantee shirt sizes. I know we have a number of middle school students volunteering. Our smallest size we ordered are adult extra small. We have no youth sizes in our volunteer shirts. And if you are volunteering as part of a large group, a church group, an Elks Club, a corporate entity, you are welcome as a group to wear your group civic school t-shirt with that name clearly on it instead of our volunteer t-shirt. We do also ask that you wear closed-toed shoes, no flip-flops, even if it's a beautiful, sunny, warm morning. Again, you're going to be doing a lot of setup or cleanup activities, and I don't want anybody's toes getting smashed if a table drops on it. So again, closed-toed shoes, use common sense. You can wear shorts, you can wear jeans. In terms of that, whatever would be appropriate for in a public setting. The other thing I will note in terms of walk day is we do not have any secure enclosed space for volunteer or staff items. So think about what you're doing with your phone, with your car keys. You know, if you're wearing a purse, you know, fanny packs might be old school, but that might be the way to go, or a crossbody bag. But again, we won't have any place we can guarantee safety of your possessions. And we'll be cleaning up really quickly once the event is over at noon. So make sure you have a way to secure those things with you and on you. Now, here's time for any questions. I'm going to be looking at our chat box here, and I do not currently see any questions. I'll give just a few minutes in case there are. Again, we couldn't do this event without you. So thank you so much for your time and service. We are really excited. If for any reason you have not received the email with that photo release or reminder about your service, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, you can either email me, vanbergenamy@gmail.com, or you can email our Craig Lewis at director@dsabrevard.org, or if you forget that, info@dsabrevard.org. And we are happy to help you out in any way. If you know others, we are at about 50 volunteers for the event. We think that's a good number. Would be happy to have a few more adults on board just in case, maybe up to 60. So if you know others who might be interested, don't hesitate to point them our way. And again, we really appreciate you. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we look forward to seeing you on Saturday, November 6th, whether you show up at 5 a.m. or you're one of our volunteers at 7 a.m. So again, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You are so appreciated.